The challenge in medicine right now is that there are time limits. You've got 15 minutes, if that, with your doctor. He's writing your prescription while you're halfway out the door, or maybe halfway in the door. And it's very frustrating.
It would never have crossed my mind until I filled out the intake form that, oh, wait a minute. These things that happened to me when I was a teenager and in my early 20s would be affecting my health now. Not once had any healthcare provider asked me questions about anything that I was experiencing from that, like never really gone in depth.
Preventative care is the most affordable care
By far. We have something called the Total Diagnostic 360. I'm really excited about this. I think to really understand a problem and fix it, you have to really get to the root cause first. The clarity that comes with the fact that there are only 7 triggers, not 33,000.
7 triggers of all disease.
Every single disease.
That regardless of what symptom, what disease, what illness you have, they can all be traced back to the root cause.
Welcome back to Foundations of Health, the podcast from Denali Specialty Clinic, where we explore true health and lasting wellness by getting to the root cause. I'm Ronny, and today we're talking about prevention, not just as an idea, but as a strategy. We'll take you inside our Discovery Diagnostic and show you how this comprehensive wellness discovery gives you and your Denali provider a complete picture of your health, past and present. In this episode, we'll explore why prevention is more powerful than just waiting for a diagnosis, what makes the Discovery Diagnostic different than a standard checkup, and how our treatments like Renew02, IV therapy, and the Gut Reset program fit into a personalized path to healing. Today, we're talking about prevention. I know for myself, at least with a little bit of discovery that I've done, we've learned that my hips are imbalanced because of a condition, clubfoot, that I have, where my left leg is shorter and smaller than my right. And anyway, there's imbalance there. Yes, there's already damage that I'm reacting to, but to me, prevention means doing something about this as whatever I can do now so that it doesn't get worse. Mm-hmm. I've heard the term or the phrase, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure or something. And
stitch in time saves an eye.
Yeah. How many other catchphrases can we get out here? So this is going to sound a little macabre, but like I said, I've not seen a doctor in a while. And to be honest, I haven't had the brightest outlook on my future. I've almost kind of just been like, well, hopefully, I just kind of kick the can before it gets
too bad.
Things get too bad. And I'm willing to bet that that is pretty common. The truth is, you're not going to want to just go, when it gets bad. You're going to want to stay. I know that because I've experienced that. I'm 40, 41, and I've met someone in my life who is really important to me. And I want to be there for not just that person, of course, but certainly because now I have kind of a hope for a future. And it may not be affordable if you don't address it sooner than later. And that's what I want to drive home this point is preventative care is the most affordable care
by far.
And it's not easy because most likely you're not having symptoms that I've heard you say pain is one of the greatest motivators.
Sure.
And that is why I think preventative care is the hardest, is because you're not feeling like you need it right now. But it's also the easiest because you can make so much progress or cover so much ground, get so much more ahead of things when you're not already so encumbered by, and this is something that I have not really been thinking about, but, especially in my situation where I'm like, my gut could be affecting my joint health. Well, yes, actually, like the fungus, parasites, bacteria, all of that is wreaking havoc on us probably since the day we were born. Our microbiome starts to become more and more imbalanced or, because of toxins or poor diet or whatever, you had something happen to you, they get the upper hand and then things get bad. But if we can get in front of these things later down the road, and we're always going to need care, but later down the road, the care that we will need won't be as invasive or drastic or
lengthy. I mean, think about the fact that if you're here on your disease process, and not to be pessimistic, but the reality is, welcome to life. Life is about discomfort, dis-ease, and an illness is one of those pieces. And we fight really hard to try to keep ourselves as well as we can be. However, how do you know how well you are? Back to the discovery process, find out where you are, find out where you've been. Well, there's this gap, if you will, between where you are, where you've been, and then even more importantly, where you want to be. Well, if you ignore the processes, if you ignore the symptoms, if you normalize them, bring them to a state where you're just like, oh, that's just life, and hopefully before they get too bad, I kick the bucket. But if that becomes your mantra, if you will, then you slip further and further from this goal, from the place that you want to be. And I look at, my own life where fungal infection in my lungs got so bad. I would cry going up a flight of stairs. I hurt so much. I'm not a crier. And I was an avid weightlifter. I played baseball. I played a whole season with a broken pinky. I know it was a pinky, but still it hurt.
It hurts.
Yeah. But it got to the point where I literally had a conversation with God, and I said, look, if this is what the rest of my life looks like, I'm not interested. I wasn't suicidal, but to your point, I wasn't interested in what my future held. And then that motivated me to, okay, what can be done? Let's just start day by day, get moving through the process, discover that, and where I was at, what needed to move forward. And every day I just started the battle. And now I get to this point where, being 56, I've got all but one of my children married and 3 grandchildren, 1 on the way. And my goodness, I don't know what I would have missed because I didn't know how amazing they were. And I think that's life in general. It's just not my grandchildren. Even this side of medicine and seeing the changes that happen in people's lives. Wow. And I get to do this for a job? Bring it. It's fantastic. We take people from devastating disease and change their lives all the way to preventing those things from ever happening. Super rewarding. And we're looking at processes and programs and protocols so we can do more, so we can help more people. So it's just not limited to, gosh, how many people can Dr. Earl see in a day? Okay, now it's how many people can I and my nurse practitioners see in a day? Okay, how many can I train other doctors to see, nationally, globally, what have you? That's beyond exciting to me.
Mm-hmm. What I found most profound was, for the first time, even for myself, that symptoms that I now experience or things that I didn't even recognize as symptoms until I had spoken with other patients, I had just chalked up as, this is how it is. I'm going to do the best with what I have. But it would never have crossed my mind until I filled out the intake form that, oh, wait a minute, these things that happened to me when I was a teenager and in my early 20s would be affecting my health now, not once. So with the history of my health being, I had endometriosis, 2 tubal pregnancies, 7 miscarriages, had done in vitro. Not once had any healthcare provider ever asked me questions about anything that I was experiencing from that. Like, never really gone in depth, never connected any dots that anything I was experiencing now could even be related. And after talking with you and going over the history of my health and then understanding the present state of my health, those dots were magically connected. And then I went through the pelvic health program, and it changed almost everything. And my body responded right away, because you weren't just offering pain medication or offering short-term solutions to being able to manage pain, or you were able to say, well, this happened, which is why these symptoms exist, and let's take care of that. And that's a really big deal because it's true healing that lasts.
Getting down to the triggers.
If anyone's experiencing symptoms of any kind, pain, inflammation, what else we got? Weight gain, weight loss, like what else is there? There's so many symptoms.
Yes, brain fog.
Brain fog, lack of
There
energy.
you go, brain fog.
Achy
Low
joints.
libido, like incontinence, like so many things. I feel like the Discovery Diagnostic is so important because without understanding the history of your health, without understanding the present state of your health, like you don't have a roadmap, you don't have all of the information. And it's with those two and then the consultation and the test that you have then a canvas. You have the ability to create a path and a plan to be able to not only heal, but to optimize your health.
I think to really understand a problem and fix it, you have to really get to the root cause first. I can't remember the philosopher basically, or the strategist who said, if you completely describe a problem, the solution is half done. And we find that to be the case in medicine as well. The challenge in medicine right now is that there's just there are time limits. You've got 15 minutes, if that, with your doctor. He's writing your prescription while you're halfway out the door, or maybe halfway in the door. And it's very frustrating. So part of this 360 diagnostic tool that we use, again, the intake, that's a detailed history. And from there, I'm able to start to piece together these 7 triggers or those 7 triggers' involvement in your disease process. And a complete history really starts you down that pathway. Then we do examination. Yes, we actually are one of those rare clinics that actually touches the patient. And you'll find that there's just a lot of information that can be withheld by the history, but shows up in an examination, or vice versa. We follow that with blood, urine, stool testing. We think lab testing is critical. We have an AO scanner, stands for alpha and omega scanner. It's an energy scanner, and that may seem weird to some people, but if you get into the chemistry and physics side of things, if you will, it's how we are able to 100% of the time find out that a single atom is gold or silver or what have you. And they discovered that not only can they use that technology to identify elements, but we can also use it to identify chemistry inside of you that might be amiss. We follow that, if needed, by x-rays. You actually had some very critical x-rays for us to sort out what was going on with you. And I think had we not done those x-rays, we would have perhaps prescribed or recommended therapy that maybe wasn't as necessary, but it gave us a very clear sequence of how that goes together. And then ultimately, we take all of that information and we compile it. We look at those 7 triggers, what their involvement is, and then we start to put that into where in your body, basically the 7 systems. I know people say there are 11, etc., but if you divide the body systems into their function, you'll find that there are 7 core systems. So we start to divide those systems and those triggers in such a way that your program becomes automatic. So that's kind of the importance of that whole scenario. And there's certain percentages. I mean, the gold standard, you see your regular doctor and you walk in and, they, okay, go get these tests and, blood, urine, stool tests or x-rays. Or finding that those tests in isolation are anywhere from 65 to 70% accurate, which is kind of low if you want to be actually responsible about someone's health. The history can be 80% accurate. So even just taking a good detailed history gets us so much information, more information than what we think is the gold standard and we've been told is the gold standard of the chemistry. So really important to come at it from a lot of different perspectives. And that's what we do.
You talked about the gold standard elsewhere. We're talking about different types of discovery sort of thing. There's the foundational method that we just learned about, but can you give us kind of like a rundown of what that might look like at a conventional medicine situation? Like what does that discovery look like there, and how are they different?
Well, it was very interesting. I mean, they're trying to, in many instances, match a little bit of what we do in emergency medicine, but emergency medicine doesn't fit the real life scenario. As an ER doc for 16 years, we had these amazing, I mean, MRI was right there, X-ray was right there, CAT scan was right there, labs were back in an hour and a half. That doesn't really fit in the real world scenario. And we have one job, and that's to find out if your case is emergent or not. We're not really looking to make these in-depth diagnoses. And so getting to the bottom of what's really causing your illness, your pain, your discomfort, your infection, what have you, really isn't it's a broken model for that. And so you typically, in fact, I just talked with a patient just today. They were extremely frustrated because they went in, they saw their doctor, they had, and this was an intake, and they had 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20. They could describe their primary problem. And the doctor ordered a few tests, sent them on their way. They're back in 2 weeks, reviewed those tests and said, basically based on these tests, we're going to try this and this and this. One of those was physical therapy. They went to the physical therapist who, super sad, basically told them that the pain that she had been experiencing for 10 years was in her head and that there was no real core source for that. And we find that...
Is that common?
That's where it's going to go, is that unfortunately that's more common than not.
The reason I ask is I've heard several people recently kind of describe their experience in ways.
Yeah, and it comes in a variety of forms. Your tests are normal. We can't find anything going on. And it's one of the other things this patient said that was very poignant is they said, my goodness, everyone's a subspecialist or a specialist. And this person that I saw, all they looked at was my spine. They isolated the spine and didn't look at anything else. And she was so frustrated. Who is taking and looking at the entire system, the entire body as a whole? It's very frustrating seeing these kind of physicians, if you will, but they're stuck just like you are. And it's very frustrating for them as well.
Well, and even Byron, who was on the podcast in November, he shared his story, and he mentioned that he had seen hundreds of medical doctors. He had pursued different avenues to not only seek treatment, but to even receive a diagnosis. And some of them had shared that it's in his head, that it's not as severe as it was. And so he had shared so much of that. And if he hadn't been hell-bent on finding real answers,
right,
he would be in the same position. And what's also sad is years had gone by. So the Lyme's disease had done so much damage in those years.
Right.
Whereas if they had found one test or gone one extra step or been a little bit outside of the box, and to their credit, maybe they were confined, right? But then he ends up here after years, and then you're able to find the root source and treat the root cause.
Well, and so many, and I think we've set this up as a societal norm, if you will, that we see the doctors as the fixers.
Mm.
And we really need to be seen as the coordinators.
Mm.
Coordinating your care, and certainly we understand, I think on a little different level of what's going on inside of your body, but that brings up another great point. So I want to really emphasize that before I jump on to this next point, is the fact that we have to be our own advocate for our own health. We have to be the one that really says, I'm going to X, Y, and Z. I'm going to, back to Byron, he was determined, even if it meant going through 100 doctors, he was determined to find out what was going on, and he's, living his best life right now, which is fantastic. But it brings up this other point, which is in Western medicine right now, and I haven't checked, I'm sure they're adding to this all the time, but a few years ago, your doctor could place 33,000 different labels on you. They're called diagnoses. but 33,000.
That's not very many.
Yeah. Who can keep track of that?
Could be like drowning.
And they've got all this, and they've got all this new information that, AI is so much better at, diagnosing than your doctor. AI is doing this, AI is doing that. Well, yeah, because AI can compute those 33,000 labels against the symptoms. But it's still leading to a diagnosis, not a root cause.
We had a cold like just last week, and we made an appointment at the doctor, and their questions are, well, what are your symptoms? And we gave them symptoms. This was like a 5, maybe 10-minute appointment at most. And they wanted to prescribe antibiotics. They wanted to give us all of these things. And none of it would have benefited us. It would have done more damage. And why immediately put me on antibiotics? Because I have congestion. And so there were no real questions. And I feel like when people go, there's such little time and so few questions that they're not really even asking what's actually wrong. It's more like, hey, you have a runny nose, take this.
Yeah, this symptom, this prescription.
Right, and it would have come right back.
Right.
Fortunately, when I am here, and then I just get, vitamin C or get an IV, and then my health, I was over it, Saturday night got sick, and it was better by Wednesday because I was able to ask questions, and you asked questions, asked what I was experiencing, and then there was resolution. There was something that could be fixed with what was going on inside of me, not just here's a prescription, take care of that runny nose.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, back to the concept of there's so much about customer service based on seeing your doctor, and they get less complaints if you leave with that magical piece of paper. But not thinking through what's going on with, after you take that antibiotic, that magical piece of paper, is the fact that it's destroying your microbiome, absolutely destroying. And we found that this species, if you will, this genus of bacteria, the lactobacillus, is pivotal as far as your gut health. There are quite a few variations, or if you will, species of the lactobacillus. And almost universally, and they seem really robust in any other situation, but they are almost universally destroyed very quickly by antibiotics. And no one does anything to replace those. The microbiome, huge part of your health. We were just starting to scratch the surface about what our microbiome does for us. So to your point, yeah, he had 5 minutes. How does he maintain some level of expectation? How does he, get you in and out the door so he can meet all those other variables that we talked about? Well, if a little congestion, doesn't necessarily have time to differentiate between the fact that it's viral, bacterial, or other. We're finding the fungal infections will set up in your sinuses significantly. Early on, when I was having all of my symptoms, my oxygen level was below unsafe, and I saw the pulmonologist, and he's like, well, maybe your x-ray looks fine, your CAT scan looks fine, we don't know what's going on, your tests are normal. He had just taken a moment and stepped up. How different would my life have been then versus getting so sick that I was a runner, I was an avid weightlifter, I loved to exercise, I was addicted. And I couldn't I struggled to get out of bed. Me and caffeine were good friends. And then you made it through the day so that you could provide for the family. You came home, you crashed, you slept miserably, and you just repeated that every single day. My life would have been different had I intervened at this guy's level.
Yep.
And truly discovered what was going on. Your life will be different, totally different. Your x-rays were so much fun to look at because it was amazing how much your young, amazing body had compensated for what was going on. Structurally, I just said, I was like, okay, and it was so cool to look at what your body was able to do. That preventative piece is going to change your trajectory, just immensely. That's super exciting.
I'm excited. I'm relieved that it's hard to be vulnerable. That is, I've said this before. You have to do it though. If you can't be vulnerable, you won't. You may, but it's unlikely that
you can't progress without it.
Well, but the truth is, if we're not vulnerable, if we don't share, like if Allie hadn't shared, I wouldn't be here. And if I don't share, my nieces won't hear about breast health, or everybody I come into contact with. It's a really big deal. And even though prevention is such a key piece, the diagnostic is so important because, for example, I am healthier now. I feel so much of the pelvic health program that it genuinely has changed my life. But what I'm so grateful for is just in knowing when I refer people here, if they do the diagnostic, now Kelby and Victoria, who are 22, will not have to experience what the rest of us did. They won't have to go through Karen's worry or Karen's health or Allie's experience. Like, they have the opportunity to prevent all of that from happening.
And their distance, back to that point, the distance in taking them from where their current state is to this optimal is so much shorter.
So much shorter.
And their bodies are young. They're vibrant. I just kind of shake my head and I'm like, oh, I want to be young again. Fantastic. But then that brings in the other reality. Super blessed. I'm healing faster than I ever thought I'd be able to at this age. I'm putting things back together and it's not like I'm the epitome of health, but I can do anything I want to do. Lift weights, run, chase the grandkids around, get all the way down to the ground with my grandkids and play. My little 2-year-old Bingham.
The cutest of all groups.
Yeah, but just, he wants you on his level. Bring it on. And then be able to hop back up. That didn't happen just a few years ago. So the body's amazing. The body's a miracle. Shorten your distance of healing, if you will. Quit ignoring the symptoms. Don't normalize them. Be proactive. Decide that you're going to be the one responsible for your health. Let it coordinate that. Really sort out what's going on and put you on a path that just alleviates so many problems, so much pain, so much difficult. And the other thing that it puts it puts possibilities, it puts can do, and it puts I will do back into your playground, if you will.
And this just happened with me with my dental, so again, not been very preventative about dental. I haven't seen the dentist again in another 10 years. So I'm doing really good. I'm someone you should watch to figure out how to
Papa Berenstein Bear.
Yes.
What not to do in preventative medicine.
But my point is I went in, we had x-rays done, and I figured out, okay, the thing that I was most concerned about, I popped a little filling out of my tooth, one of my furthest back molars. And so I'd been thinking, like, I hope it's not turning into like what will end up being coming a root canal scenario. Anyway, I've gotten peace of mind on all of that now. Now I know what's wrong.
Such a good point.
Now I can say, okay, well, I know what's important to have addressed first, get done first. Same with the discovery.
Fantastic. Think about that process. You went from, I don't want to be vulnerable, I want to sit and do nothing, be comfortable, to fear, all the way now to empowered possibilities moving forward. And we get so scared about figuring out what's going on because we're scared of what's going to happen. And, seeing 100 doctors or seeing multiple doctors, them never really explaining what's going on. But being able to drive that back to those core triggers, it seems possible. Getting past that first hurdle, sorting out what's actually going on. And then from there, we're able to come up with, plans, be that the Renew 2, which is our injections for joints that have broken down, perispinal pain and inflammation. If it moves, the Renew 2 will help. All the way then to our flagship program, if you will, so the gut reset. Really starting to get into the immune reset, the cardio restore program, the neural restore program. So looking at these core major programs and these major systems in order to bring the body back to full health. One of the other key pieces is our IV room. We talked about the fact that 97% of Americans actually have significant nutritional deficiencies. That's one of those big initiators that starts the whole process, is we don't have the resources inside of our body to take care of the problem in the first place. We have a series called the Thrive series in order to put the nutrients, if you will, into your body in concentrations and in a delivery method that actually makes sense. Talked about the pelvic reset. We're putting the final pieces on this whole neural reboot stack that's been outstanding.
But even breast health. I mean, we talk about thermography, and it can maybe share with our audience how it can predict ahead.
So the breast program is really,
first of all, one of its kind.
Yeah, it's been a very intuitive, but also a very deliberate process, kind of a happy accident, if you will, because I never thought in a million years this would be something that I would have any kind of knowledge about. But decades ago, I got invited to be over a cancer clinic, a natural cancer clinic. We were interested in cancer. We were doing all kinds of different chronic diseases. That's where I developed a lot of my expertise in Lyme and so forth. Anyway, in order to really understand what was going on, I had to get into the research, and I came across these processes that no one was teaching, no one was talking about, in order to diagnose, revive, cleanse, and really put the breast health back into a major focus. And I've just added to that throughout the years, everything from now the thermography to, once again, we have blood, urine, stool tests that we can do in order to figure out what's really causing the root cause issue. But thermography has been a game changer. And I'm not one of those doctors that says absolutely no mammography. Mammograms do a good job of looking at the structure. So what's in the breast tissue as far as a structure, and they're looking at calcium deposits, and they're looking at scar tissue and those type of things, post-biopsy changes, what have you, post-surgical changes. Well, the problem is it's extremely reactive. In fact, it's completely reactive. You have to have a 0.5 centimeter, a 5 millimeter mass before it will even show up on a mammogram. And then fast forward now to thermography, which really needs to be the standard of care. The data is there, but we're not guessing. This is actually true science, and it's been out for decades. Well, thermography looks at the function. What that means is you can have functional changes far before you ever have structural changes, to the point that the cells will change their metabolism that we can detect through the programs that we do here. We actually can detect those cells that are undergoing early pre-cancer changes, early changes, metabolic changes before they ever become diseased. We can pick that up all the way down to 2 millimeters. That's huge.
Crazy.
And not only that, we can predict those, but I've just always been frustrated with programs that, okay, we'll keep track, okay, we'll watch, okay, let's see how things are going to be. I had to know what we could do about it. And so also through our program, not only do we find out where you're at, we teach you how to revitalize your breast in a very anatomical, structure, chemical, energy way, so that your breast tissue, once again becomes alive and a part of you. And then we follow it up and we prove it. We prove it through exam. We watch the masses and the tissue clear. We watch the energy change through thermography, and also through that exam process, we watch the overall health of the skin, the areola, the nipple. We can actually see the nerve tissue improve as we go along. It's fantastic, and just not guessing. And then also creating a program that revitalizes that breast tissue, rather than just say, all right, let's follow this along until you need your surgery or your biopsy or those type of things. Let's fix it. I love that.
I love that too. And I love that at any point you can start it. That at any point it can be as much as it is healing, or for me, contouring, or as equally as it is preventative. Like it makes me feel so much.
Or even if they're already sick, the breast tissue is already sick. This has been shown actually to improve outcomes.
Well, and even people who have been diagnosed with cancer and had gone through chemotherapy, like people, you can always cleanse and heal and create the best breast health situation for you. And that I find empowering. That I love.
Well said.
I like it. I think that's a good place to leave it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming and talking
Thanks,
about
Ronny.
this.
Thanks, Ronny. This was
You're a
fantastic.
great host.
Well, if we had,
Great gut.
Great Scott.
Great gut. Great guts.
Great guts.
so yeah, if you're making New Year's resolutions and you're trying to figure out what is the best way to start preventative care, it is the Discovery Diagnostic. So come into Denali, get your diagnostic, figure out what your map of health looks like, and take action from there. You won't regret it.
Not only does it incorporate the history of your health, it takes into account the present state of your health. So whether you want to heal or whether it is if you have specific goals you want to accomplish, you want to create optimal health, that is the place to start. So if you have symptoms that you've normalized or symptoms in general and you don't know what to do, come to Denali, because this is a place to figure it out.
One of my favorite phrases of all time, if you will, know better, do better, be better. Well, you can't do better if you don't know better. You can't be better if you don't do better. And so the prerequisite of all of that, the starting point of all of that is knowing. Well, come to Denali and let's figure it out. Wonder Twin Powers activate. Oh, I just dated myself. How did that happen?
Prevention isn't about reacting less. It's about understanding more. When you see the full picture, you can take action early, make smarter choices, and partner with your body instead of working against it. If you're ready to understand your health on a deeper level, schedule your Discovery Diagnostic by calling us at 801-389-4697. Subscribe to Foundations of Health and share this episode with someone who's ready to start their year strong. And follow us on Instagram for more educational health insights and stories from our patients. Thanks for joining us on Foundations of Health. Today, we explored how prevention starts with understanding and how the Discovery Diagnostic helps you see the full picture of your health. Next time, we're taking the foundation deeper as we talk about pelvic health and the Pelvic Reset Program, how restoring your core can restore energy, balance, and confidence. Until then, remember, when you know better, you do better, so you can be better.